What is up, it's Vic, your Hunter, and I just got done with a brutal workout, and we're gonna do a comparison review of the Coros Vertix 2S and the Coros Apex 2 Pro. Now, you've probably seen a lot of videos by this point because the Vertix 2S has been out for a while, comparing it to the original Vertix or maybe some of the other watches on the market right now. But I wanted to do a video specifically talking about what are the primary differences that make up the $250 price difference. So the Vertix 2S is $700, and the Apex 2 Pro is $450. So what brings about that big of a difference in price? So we're gonna talk about it in brief form. So if you look at all the features that Coros offers, if you think about like the Evo Lab and the training effect, basically, they give you the aerobic and the anaerobic. They give you a training load for each workout, a recovery time for each workout. They track your training load to see if this week's was harder than last week. They give you some basic sleep analytics, HRV nightly. You can do multi-sport. You can do climbing and bouldering because they have some specific sport profiles built in. You have some basic mapping built in that gives you simple things or a simple summary of the area around you. You have dual band GPS. You have titanium body. You have sapphire glass. And those are all the features on both models. So every primary feature that Coros is on the market offering right now is on both the Vertix 2S as well as the Apex 2 Pro. So what are the differences? Because there's the 2S, the Vertix 2S is $700 and the Apex 2 Pro is $450. And the only really primary differences are the three Bs, two primary and one minor: the body, the battery, and a band. If I was to really summarize what are the differences, all the spec sheet, all the list, it's all the same. The internal capabilities, the heart rate sensor, it's all the same. But the differences are the body, the battery life, and the band. So if you look at the body, the Apex 2 Pro is 46 millimeters and 14 millimeters thick, and the Vertix 2S is 50 millimeters wide and 16 millimeters thick, so considerably bigger. It's like 20 grams heavier, so a felt bit heavier. And the screen on the Vertix 2S is bigger at 1.4 inches versus the Apex 2 Pro at 1.3 inches. And all of that is just to say somewhat of aesthetically, because they're both using titanium, they're both using sapphire glass. So aesthetically, which version do you like better? The Vertix 2S is rugged and tough looking. The Apex 2 Pro is a little bit more sleek and slender, but they have the same quality of components and contents. It's just what body style you prefer. So that's the first difference. The second is the battery life difference. The thing that I would say at the outset with either of these is they're both astronomically long battery life. So the Apex 2 Pro, the less expensive, gets 24 days of battery life. That's over 3 weeks. The Vertix 2S gets 40 days. That's over a month. Neither one you might make a case to say need that much battery life. The Vertix 2S, if you're doing a GPS activity, is 118 hours, and the Apex 2 Pro is 66 hours, just shy of 3 days. So what are you getting going from $450 to $700 besides a body style difference? You get extended battery life, but the Apex 2 Pro already has 24 days of battery life or 66 hours of GPS. Considerably good. And then the last minor thing, the minor B, is you get an extra band with the Vertix 2S. You get a nylon band or a latex band as well as a Velcro band. So when I look at the differences, it really comes down to if you want to both look like a more rugged adventurer, Vertix 2S, and then have the battery life of maybe an extended adventurer, the Vertix 2S. But if you really want all the guts and content with still extensively long battery life, with still high quality components and contents, then the Apex 2 Pro will save you $250. So in a nutshell, that is it. So I thought I would do a video that just highlights that simple difference between the two. The second part of this video I wanted to talk about was, where does Coros stand in today's lineup? I just got done testing the Suunto Race S. Prior to that, it was the Polar Grit X2 Pro. And so in testing all these other watches, it's just been released from other companies. The Garmin 965 has been around for a while, but I've been testing that as sort of a comparison metric to all these other watches, where does Coros now stand up? So I thought I would just do a touch point evaluation. You know, right now it's July of 2024. Where does Coros stand? Well, look at the pros of where Coros offers or brings to the table. The pros are they've always used high quality components. They've always used titanium for the bodies, sapphire glass. They've always had really well done bands, well done clasps, well done, you know, quick fit style things, just high quality. They've always had astronomically long battery life. We'll talk about that with some of the cons, but they've always had astronomically long battery life. We just, you know, talked about how the Apex 2 Pro's got 24 days. That's over 3 weeks, and that's the smaller battery life of some of their main ones. They've always had excellent training tracking, what they call Evo Lab, which looks at your recent training and evaluates it compared to your longer term training, gives you scores, gives you evaluation. There's lots of good running dynamics they've always offered. They've always done a good workout analysis with aerobic training load or training effect, as well as anaerobic training effect, which is two components that are useful metrics and useful tools. They've always had recovery time from one hard workout to the next, which is another useful metric, useful tool. They've always had base fitness. I love that they show you on the Evo Lab and the training evaluation your base fitness as it grows and improves, and their own little, you know, training load ratio, which is sort of like a component of how hard you're training now versus how you have in the past. And then they've also had unique training profiles. So bouldering, you know, obviously multi-sport, but trying to bring new training profiles. I like that they added this workout where you can basically project what's on your watch onto a device. I think that is significantly cool, actually, a small little component. And then in the middle, so those are the things that they've done well, and those are the things that are still competitive. In the middle are some of the wellness aspects, and we'll talk about that in the cons section, but in the middle they have some version of mapping. So, you know, the versions of mapping are pretty much uniform now, where Garmin's the best and everybody else just has like picture maps that show you where you are in a picture, but not with street names. They've, you know, always shown sleep cycles and, you know, the basic like estimation of time you're in deep, light, REM. That's saying they have added nightly HRV, but that's pretty standard and run-of-the-mill. Everybody has some component of HRV nowadays. They've added stress tracking, which actually a lot of devices now track. Whoops, added it. You know, a lot of different Apple Watch apps have added it as a component you could follow as the stress tracking itself, as well as just a solid app. So they've had all those basic, those are sort of like standard run-of-the-mill. But what are the cons in today's competitive world? As I've gotten done testing the Suunto Race S, the Polar Grit X2, and then all alongside Garmin's primary offering, a lot of it comes down to the quality of the watch experience and the screen, and the wellness recommendations and features, or the analytics of wellness. So when it comes to the screen, Coros has always had legendary battery life, but they've always also had the dimmest screens on the entire marketplace. They use a technology called memory and pixel or transflective screen, so that's common with a lot of other watches, or with some other watches. It's actually becoming less common now, but Garmin's always had that on their Phoenix series. But the Coros watch faces are always, you know, maybe 10% of the brightness of Garmin, and uncontrollable. You can't turn the brightness up. You don't get that choice if you want to use a Coros watch. So of course they're accomplishing long battery life. Now we have watches on the market with AMOLED displays that are getting 5 to 11 days of battery life, depending on the Garmin model that you're looking at, or even some of the other models that are out in the industry. So the screen quality difference is a big lagging aspect in today's marketplace. And then the wellness recommendation. So like I said, they've always done some version of sleep tracking where they give some estimate for how much each stage of your sleep was, how long you spent, but it doesn't give you any recommendations for what that means for your training or what that means for your life. They do HRV, nightly evaluation, which is a version of telling you if your training's been too much, but they're probably the least visual of the manufacturers on the market. They do stress tracking, but the stress doesn't tell you anything about modifications or how really significant stress today is versus stress other days. So they're not giving you direction with a lot of their wellness components. And at least not compared to others. Like if you compare it to others, Polar's got nightly recharge, which evaluates multiple physiological aspects as well as your sleep cycle analysis to give you a recommendation for the day. Suunto's got resources, which is like stress tracking, but it evaluates the impact of stress on your internal resources, as well as they have the HRV nightly evaluation. And then Garmin's got like 15 more than everybody. They got training readiness, they got body battery, they got HRV nightly evaluation, they got a sleep score, and then, you know, Whoop, devices like that, they're primarily focused on recommendations from the nightly evaluation. So Coros is really lacking in current market, even with just these recent reviews, in those basic components, in looking at wellness as well as quality of screen usage, quality of watch usage itself. So that's the summary. If you were to compare the two differences, one to the other, from the value of what you get for the Vertix 2S versus the Apex 2 Pro, as well as where does Coros stand in the current competitive landscape in July of 2024 with some of the components that they offer and do well, some of the components that are sort of average, just like everybody else, or some of the things that are really lagging. It's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.